I'm liking the attire as well. What's happening there, Pete? You know, are you on Underbelly?
Yeah, I know.
Sirens busy jiving. Guess I'll make my move. Crazy feet on
The Mystic and the Fool, highly regarded as a virtuoso, a diversity of sensitivity. Ladies and gentlemen, Joseph Tawadros.
Okay, I think we're cooking with gas now. All right.
Yay.
All right, we good?
We're good, man. How are you?
All right. Yeah, not too bad. All right, let's finally.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Joseph. This is my co-host, Greg Fryer.
How are you?
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Good, man.
He was from originally from Queensland, and you're originally from Sydney, so you got something in common.
Yeah.
The warm weather.
Is that what it is?
It is. So, Joe, tell me, how did you come to play the oud? This is not a standard instrument in Australia.
I mean, it's a very much standard instrument in Arabic culture, and you know, I'm Egyptian background. I was born in Egypt and brought up in Sydney, actually on the streets of Redfern. So there you go. Like, you know, I actually went to Redfern Public. So there you go, Greg. There's a bit of a connection, I guess.
Do you know Billy Mack? Do you know Billy Mack?
I don't actually. Who's Billy Mack?
McPherson. Oh, right. He's an actor around Redfern and that. This colourful character in a nice way.
I went there in the 90s, like mid-90s. Redfern Public School.
Oh yeah.
And you know, we had the Trindles and the Mundines there, and so
okay.
that was great. So yeah, my family were there in Redfern, and then but very much Egyptian, and we love the culture, and yeah, I just saw it in the movies that my parents watched, and you know, really loved it, and I saw it as a link to my heritage, and so that's why I started playing it and really learning more about my family and where they came from.
It's always, I don't know how I say this, it captured my soul or my spirit when I've heard that instrument. Even as a child, I'd hear it. There was something about the melodic aspect. I don't know what it is, but it just used to capture me and used to love this. It wasn't exposed to very much, I mean, but whenever I'd hear it, I'd just go, and it took me ages and I finally found out what it was. You'd hear stupid Western-orientated films and stuff, and it's like, it's Middle Eastern, all right, cue the oud, you know, that sort of stuff. But,
well, I mean, that's where I get most of my work, Greg, so I hope they're not listening.
When I'd hear it, the instrument would just capture me, and I wanted to know more, but being here in Australia, you weren't able to access that or find out about it and stuff. And
one of the theories that, you know, it's so old that, you know, that it's just ingrained. There's something in our ancestry because it's such an old instrument. But yeah, it is one of those instruments that I've always believed in its mystique, and I've always believed in its ability to touch people, also not from Middle Eastern background. So I guess that's what I try and do with my music, and that's what I try and do on stage, is to find those connections. To just, you know, have a very enjoyable experience for humans rather than, you know, picking a certain geography and or demographic and just working to that.
How does it differentiate from Western music? Are the scales different?
Well, I mean,
timing,
Arabic music is based on modes. Yeah, it's based on scales basically, but there's some scales. You know, they have major and minor, which have names, but they also have other scales. They have about 55 scales. Usually 10 to 15 that are the main ones that are used in Arabic music. And they have quarter tones, which are seen as out of tune notes in the West. Basically, that would be the notes between the black and white keys on a piano, or the notes if you remove the frets. So in the West, they tried to cancel it, basically, try to cancel out any of that quarter tone sound. But that's something that's very rich in Middle Eastern music.
They took the fun out of it. It's like,
the West have been taking the fun out of things for years.
So, how did you reach in and capture the in-depth tones of this unique instrument?
I mean, I think a lot of it's there. I mean, it has a very unique, a very distinct, rather, Middle Eastern voice. So it's just about finding the similarities between what other players do. I early on collaborated with musicians from different backgrounds. So for me, it was about finding similarities. And also, you know, I wasn't, you know, I didn't want to what's the thing? Yeah, you got to find the similarities and know where other people are coming from. I think it's important in collaboration to learn about the person you're collaborating with, which is, I think, a problem that musicians have sometimes. They get too excited with the idea of a jam session. And in that, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that probably just, it's just basically that, just a jam session. But if you want to have a successful collaboration, you need to know about the style and the music and what other people are doing, and then find a common ground rather than having two things running at once. Yeah, I mean, it's about sensitive ears, really. It's about being able to know when to sit back and not play as well, and just have a listen and sit and bounce off what the musician is doing.
Yeah. Because I was listening to your latest CD that's on Spotify, and you definitely can hear those tones that that sort of tap into sort of Indian sitar. There's a couple other cultures there that I could hear, just the tone of it, and how it was structured, the melody was structured, and how the formation of the song was taking shape, and that can really draw you in as a listener, because if you weren't aware of it being an oud, you would instantly say it's some sort of. I think most people would come to the point where they say, "Is that a sitar or is that a
Yeah.
So
it's about finding. Well, I've always been trying to find different textures and sounds within the instrument. Anyway, I think it's very much evolving the instrument, and I really want to be a part of that evolution. And so, I'll play things that I really like. I'll find influences that I really like. Sometimes banjo or African kora or whatever I can find and try to implement on the instrument. But I always think that the instrument should always maintain its integrity. Sound-wise, I'm not one of those people who puts it through a pedal and distorts it and stuff like that. I think once you start doing that, you lose the real flavor of the oud. It doesn't become an oud, it can be just a guitar with some effects. So I did have a period of doing that. I had a band called the Oud, the Bad and the Ugly. And then and then I thought, it's, it was a bit of fun for a while. It was a bit rocky, but I just really prefer having the oud in its voice, in its sound, in its timbre. But also you could have rocky stuff while the oud still maintains that timbre, and I think that's very important.
I agree. I played Didge, and for a period I done this experiment with effects and delay and stuff. It was fun sort of thing, but I came to the same conclusion.
You turned it into a trombone.
Yeah, and even pitch shift, but I came to the same conclusion to you. It's got to speak its natural voice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty of it is being able to collaborate with its voice, with its sound. Otherwise, we're falling into other territory. But, that's not to say other stuff like that isn't enjoyable and that we shouldn't have experiments like that. I think that's important to try modern things. And as long as it doesn't dominate, I think it's fine to try and have a bit of fun.
You recently had your battle with Corona. How do you feel?
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I feel like Superman now. I feel like, I'm peaked. I'm ready for my microchip. Where are they going to put it behind my ear or something? Like Terminator. Look, it's fine. I mean, it was a 3 weeks of just high fever and low fever. Then, breathing wasn't great, but I managed. I was thinking maybe I have some underlying health issue I don't know about, but it was okay. I got through it like an ox, man, and then I think I'm antibodied now. I've got antibodies.
So did you get that on the way back from Australia?
Probably.
Yeah, right.
Probably got it. Yeah, because I did notice the flight that I was on actually registered as having people on it that had it. So
yeah, right.
And I have a beard like this. This is a sponge. I don't know what else is in this beard, man. But it would have carried COVID-19 and probably 5-6 different strains by the time I got back to London.
But were you concerned at any point whilst you were going through that?
No. No, I lost 6 kilos, Pete. I was like, man, I could do another bout for another 6. But the problem is I lost 6 kilos and I gained 12.
Yeah, right.
So it's terrible. It didn't really do anything. I felt really fit for a while, but yeah, it's not the type of fitness you want.
I was very concerned because when you told me, because I know we were talking and at that stage, and I was like, shit, he's got it. And I really thought it could be dire straits, No,
I never felt like that any time. Like, there was moments where, I never felt like I was going to go. It's just like, oh, this is a bit annoying. Because you go from extreme fevers to chills So it was just a diet of paracetamol, and just it just fluctuated constantly. And then the breathing, because you didn't. I lost a sense of taste, and so it was just it was interesting though. I would still eat while I had no taste, but you could kind of guess what it was. Mm-hmm. You could still know the texture. You go, oh, that's grapes. I don't know what they taste like, but they're grapes. So yeah, I mean, I didn't really have much of an appetite, and but it was okay. I mean, it wasn't. It was just a couple of 3 weeks, I would say, that really knocked me about. But I didn't think I was going to go. I mean, if I was going to go, that's I'm a big boy.
Yes.
It would have gone from something else. It would have gone from some sort of other condition, which I'm glad I didn't have.
Yes.
I know you were scared, Pete. When I was doing the concerts, that would have been some of the last concerts you've done. You did.
Yeah.
Were the ones at Bird's Basement.
Yes.
I remember you were pretty scared about the whole thing.
Well, yeah, I sort of, because I've got underlying health issues, so that makes me nervous at any stage, especially if they say, if you've got pre-existing health issues, to be wary. So that's what I was more worried about. And because we were in a hotel and there was a lot of, people coming for the Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I didn't think about that, actually. Yeah, I didn't think about the hotel thing. We're high risk.
Yeah, and I was thinking more of the wider community, and how it was impacting on us. After you, we did Steve Smith and we did a week of local shows, and then we did Steve Smith, and that was it. It was shut the doors,
Yeah, I mean, the arts industry and the gigs are kind of dried up, so it's I mean, this is my life normally, Pete. This is everyone's now living the way I live. I'm not special anymore.
I know what you mean.
Now they've decided to take the last bit of income I had.
It's brought it all down to our level. It's incredible.
That's the thing. I don't find this unique. This is what I do in London most of the time, But now things are closed. It's like, I mean, it's just everyone's on a holiday, aren't they? Now people are starting to go out on the street in London. I think just out of frustration, probably.
It is.
And it's just it just seems like it's on vacation, or it just seems like Australia, because of the population is just doesn't seem to be out most of the time. It just seems a bit, it's just like Australia. London's turned into Australia, where there's not much population. Everything seems okay. But it's good that you guys are starting to open back up, and people are going out and going to restaurants and things.
Well, not maybe in Sydney. I think it's a little bit more advanced than Melbourne, which is.
Okay.
But this week
I sat down on the street the other day in Albury, which, if anybody's not familiar with Australia, is just over in the border into New South Wales, and I was able to sit down in a cafe with my sister and a friend and have lunch, and be served a pizza. But there was a 1 hour limit. Then after 1 hour,
but that's unbelievable. That is unbelievable, really. Just I can't even imagine going to a restaurant now. This wouldn't happen.
Wow.
No.
The thing it's just that, I like cooking, so it's just, I've been cooking every day and baking. I'm a great housewife.
Yeah.
It's incredible. My domestic abilities have really surprised me. So I don't know if I'll be eating out anymore. I think I'm going to turn into a hermit. I've just gone on early retirement, basically. Everyone that wished that they were on early retirement, that's what seems to have happened. But I don't know. I don't know what will happen with music. I can't see anyone sitting in an audience.
No.
No. I'm thinking of booking out stadiums so people can have 10 seats to themselves.
Yeah.
If you're going to have to social distance, get a stadium, get 10 people in there.
And just charge them appropriately so you can make some money.
Yeah, it's really not going to... I don't think that'll start for a while.
I don't think so.
Audience confidence.
Yeah, no, I think we're looking at a couple of years before we get back to any normality, But I don't know what normal will be after this. That's the other thing as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the thing. Well, I've been doing these living room concerts now and then, just playing live to the internet, basically. I mean, they're enjoyable, but I don't charge anything for them. But I put something called a virtual tip jar, which is basically a link to my PayPal, but it's not really going to cover any costs. Really, it's more of a service, keep people entertained and happy. But we'll have to figure it out. I have to figure out what happens. What I do like though is all these musicians coming out, like they had like a massive tour schedule. And then, you know what I mean? And they didn't.
Yeah.
It's just like, you go, hang on, you don't get work anyway.
Yeah, that's
You're kind of like you're a lawyer who does a little bit of banjo on the side. All of a sudden, they seem to act like they have a massive touring schedule and, it's ruined their life, but they're still a lawyer.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
So I want to just tap into, you've played with some orchestras over the time.
Yeah.
How did you come about playing with the Ukrainian Orchestra? Because that's an odd one.
Oh, yeah. The Ukrainians. Well, I get invited now and then. They're my favorite gigs. Not musically. I mean, I love the music in any context. I like the solo shows and other ensembles and orchestra. But orchestras, it's one of those gigs that are really special. And I started a long time ago with the Australian Chamber Orchestra. My first big gig, I would say my first really big collaborative gig was with the Australian Chamber Orchestra and Neil Finn when I was about 18. Richard Tognetti, the leader of the Australian Chamber Orchestra, got me to perform at the Huntington Festival, and Neil Finn was performing with him, and he popped the oud on there. So I was doing the riff for Pineapple Head, and it was interesting. It was a great experience, for an 18-year-old guy playing with such cats. So that's where it started, and then Richard then did a subscription tour with me. So we did 11 concerts around the country when I was 22. So that was really great, of all my compositions. So that's where it began. And then I just got invited little bits with other orchestras. And the Ukrainian one came from there was a violinist who worked in one orchestra who then got me for another orchestra. And he said, well, I've got an orchestra in Ukraine if you come and play. And that was one of the great concerts. I got to say, that was one of my favorite concerts to play. One, because Kiev is such a great city. And really enjoyable people, and it's so cheap. It's a really cheap place to go and visit. But just the enthusiasm and the way they love music and the way they react to music, and the level of musicianship as well is really quite amazing.
Yeah, because I know Russia has got such a history with orchestras and music. Is that would be the same thing, I would imagine?
It crosses over. It's very much that Soviet.
Yeah,
it's very much like a communist-looking town. Back in the day, you can see the brutalist buildings and things. It's got this kind of air of it. There is a thickness to those areas when you go and visit. But it's a place where they have a lot of great teachers and really amazing technicians, and they really hold it. They take their music seriously from a young age. But also the people that I met, the really young people, went to a school and gave a workshop, just so intelligent and well-rounded, and really solid views, and not a TikTok generation. Well, maybe it is now, but it's not this kind of really not much substance to it. I think with social media and all this sort of stuff, we forget about the depth that we have, and I think they maintain that, and you can see it in the kids. So
when you were studying in Egypt, was this a cultural shock for you in the beginning, and how did you cope with the language and musical history of Egypt?
No, I loved everything Egypt, and I spoke Arabic. My parents taught me how to speak, read, and write. So I was well versed in that, and I was so keen. I was so excited to go back and to learn and to find things. And because I'd already been playing the oud and learned it here, and so going back to Egypt was to find a new oud. And my uncle's a great musician. He's a trumpet player, one of the pioneers of Arabic trumpet playing. And so I got introduced to all these musicians, and it was just fun for me to hang out. It was never a thought of this is daunting. I used to go and walk into the street and meet other musicians and catch transport. And Egypt's just another place to get around, really. I mean, it's just busy and nuts, but the connections are there, and you can easily get around to places. So it's a really great place, Cairo. I mean, I'm a very big ambassador of Cairo, and it's just the city buzz and how it is, and how people react. And they're very kind people. The Egyptians are very generous. So I was brought up on that.
Were you there during the uprise?
Accidentally, yes. My brother and I were in Turkey, and we thought we'd visit the family, and we caught a flight on the worst day. It was just we're on the plane, and the air hostess said, they're calling today the Day of the Martyrs. And I'm like, oh, James, I don't want to land on the Day of the Martyrs, man. What a day to land on, the Day of the Martyrs. No. So we did land on a pretty bad day, and so we were there for 1 week and then got evacuated to Germany by the Australian government.
Okay.
In 2011. There you go.
I wonder, what's it like now? Have you been back since then, or?
Yeah. I went back. I was going in April before this Corona stuff happened. So I was going back in April. But yeah, I went the August before. August last year, I went there and making musical connections, and I'm really looking forward to doing more there. And I've got a lot of great musical friends there, and just trying to develop those collaborations and friendships. And you get to a point where you want to just start doing some of the more Arabic stuff, because I have done the jazz and the classical, and I've got an album coming out in a month with a symphony orchestra. So there is there's always collaborative stuff, but there is something about going back and doing stuff with musicians from your background.
So what are your plans post-COVID, and what's the new normal for you?
Oh, well, as I said, I basically live like how I do anyway, so that's not an issue, but it's just about finding incomes, different streams, and I was never big on the digital kind of monetization of things. There are artists that do it really well. Yeah. You look at their, you tune into their concert, and then all of a sudden a graphic pops up like, press now, donate, mention this code and you get 10% off a hat or something, So I haven't really got onto that yet. But I think every musician is going to have to start selling merchandise and stuff like that. It's a bit of a tough one, because I did love just doing free concerts for people before this started on the internet. As a community service, I liked forming a little Oud community. And so now it's just a little bit harder to ask for people just to keep your head above water. But a lot of musicians are in that position. I think we'll get through it.
Yeah.
But it is a bit disappointing that, we're the last people to kind of, get mentioned or get any help. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we're sort of the side article on the front page in a small, paragraph, Yeah, I mean, the arts aren't big, but it's a bit sad that we've never really nurtured the arts. I think that's why I left for London. Once Abbott got in, I think the musicians' morale just went down. And I was one of those,
We employ more people in the arts and the mining industry in Australia.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's the money-making, Greg, isn't it? It all comes down to the dollar, It's the nurturing of the spirit is unseen. So that is the problem with it. If you can see the positives of music and the way it affects the psyche of the people or the morale of the people, but we don't take that into account. It's about how hard you can dig something out of the ground and sell it for.
Yeah. Well, it's not unlike myself. These days my focus is in theatre and stage and screen, and the next 12 months is once all the restrictions are brought off, if you like, it's off to Eastern Europe for me to have a look at something there.
Spring break for you, Greg.
Yeah.
And just go check out the theatres, get some inspiration. Yeah,
but I
think we'll all be there.
Yeah, good. But just to get out from here and just see what other artists are doing.
Well, that's the thing, you always got to keep an open mind, and you have to see what others are doing and what we can learn from others. I think that's important, to learn from others, and it's about being a sponge. I think I've always just gone to see things, even things I don't like, listen to music I don't even like, just to see what's happening and see if that you can take something away from it. I think there's something you can take away from everything, even if it is bad or not well done. There is always something that speaks to you. So that's important in going to see shows and music and theatre. But I was always disappointed before Corona. Anyway, I think the decimation of some of the world music radio shows and things like that, that kind of just disappeared and were very instrumental in my upbringing. Shows like The Planet on Radio National and things like that.
Oceans.
So they kind of disappear. And I wonder how are kids going to get their source coming up? And I don't think they do. They just, they're on digital streaming platforms that will, pinpoint their algorithm. So it'd be harder to have people, find new things and discover new things. And I think that was the beauty of it when you were younger, was discovering new music and things you liked.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just a little bit different, but hopefully there'll be some positives to come out of this anyway.
Can you talk about how you incorporate comedy into your shows and how this has this an effect on how you received? I know you play diverse clubs in Australia, including regional venues.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the difference between local venues to regional venues when you're incorporating comedy into your?
No, I do it anyway. You know, Pete, you did 5 shows for me in a row.
No, but I mean, so
probably heard my jokes 3 times.
But that's what I'm saying. So if you're in Toowoomba or some place like that, does it go down differently in those places? That's what I'm trying to say. Does it?
Okay. No, look, everywhere is a little bit different, but it's always picking up on the energy of the audience, and I like a high degree of improvisation. I mean, my stories sometimes are there, but I like to improvise. I never have a set list of what I'm going to say. From each night working together is that sometimes they'd explode into either 30 minutes of material or 5. It's just depending on the evening and the vibes.
Yeah.
And your face on each evening as well, Pete, was a good indicator. I was like, hang on, I'm doing this joke again. Am I the disappointing Pete? So I really took your feelings into account. But I like doing it because it's just a different vibe, isn't it? I mean, it's just presenting the music in a different way. Yeah. And the music is very serious. So I never make a joke of the music. It's not that's something I don't do, but I don't take myself very seriously like these other world musicians that you see on stage, or these other oud players that just I just can't do with that whole it's just a show, you know what I mean? It's like, I wear a fez or I wear a colourful hat in general. You've seen me, Pete, on the street. I'll wear a fez on the street, and that's what I do. But then, you got these people that start dressing up in caftans and stuff and getting on the stage when he was dressed in a pair of jeans and, a shirt, and get the sad sob story happening. And, it's a show, and I don't like that kind of appealing to people's emotions when it's not genuine, when they're going to do exactly the same show in another venue. It's just kind of this bit of theatre that I don't like with the music. But some people like the comedy and some people don't. Yeah. But, generally it's quite a positive
reaction
thing, because I think people know that my intention and the energy is about making people feel good and happy and relaxed, and people don't expect it, but they do enjoy it, and they do enjoy having the freedom of not being tied down to, something that's so sacred. Because at the end of the day, look, everyone has their own sacred journey with the music if they close their eyes and listen. And the music says something different to everyone, depending on what they're going through. So the music is sacred in that manner, but I don't think the person that's playing it should be glorified into this sacred thing. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, and we're all, we're all the same, but with different gifts.
Who are your biggest influences? You met Paul Keating at Redfern's speech in 1992. What was this like? Did he leave an impression on you at all?
No, I was very young, man. It was just exciting that we had a Prime Minister come and visit, because it was a school. I sat on his lap at the Redfern speech. It was a school excursion. And so we all went, and it was great. I'm still looking at the video, trying to find my head on the video there at the Redfern speech, because I think it celebrated 25 years or something. Quite recently. It was just a great day out. I mean, we were stoked to be out of school in Redfern Park, and it was a great day out. We didn't understand anything. No kids are listening to that speech. A lot of the adults just listened to the speech and went over their head, you know what I mean? But, let alone the kids. It was just a day out with balloons and, fairy floss and stuff. And then I got to meet the Prime Minister. And I do actually have a signature for him. He did sign a little piece of paper for me, Paul Keating. So, but look, he was a strong advocate for the arts. I like him talking about the arts.
Yeah.
He was probably the real big, champion for the arts in Australia, but no one really followed on after that. So that was he did at least have an artistic vision.
He collected antique clocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, there you go. Anyone that collects clocks, he's got a different mindset. I don't know what ScoMo's doing. What's he collecting these days? You know, it's
wafers.
It's one of those things.
Church wafers is what he's collecting.
Well, there you go. The big bucks.
The big
he's collecting coal. He has just pieces of coal in his house and a mantle.
You know, we've got something in common because you were on stage with Paul Keating and I was on stage as a youngster with Patsy Biscoe. Do you know who Patsy Biscoe is?
Were you on stage with Patsy Biscoe?
She was a children's ABC.
Was that good or bad, Peter?
Well, it was exciting because I thought this is where I want to be on stage because I remember going into it was at the Alexander Gardens in the city, and she goes, "Which one of you want to come up and sing Bar Bar Black Sheep?" And I put my hand up, and she goes, "Okay, start singing." And I sung, and then I went around the back into a caravan where they had all the costumes, and I thought I was in like some gypsy. You know, I've entered some sort of magical place like Wizard of Oz or something. You know, it was incredible. So you should look up Patsy Biscoe.
That's the beginning of your career.
Well, it was the end of it too.
So you liked her as a child?
What's that?
You liked her as a child?
No, I didn't. I thought
she was shite when I was a
child. Yeah, she was.
Okay.
But it was that thing, wasn't it? Fame. He thought he'd hit the fame.
You know, Patsy Biscoe was big on the ABC. You know, what was she on Play School?
No, she had her own gig.
She?
I think I can't remember.
I thought she was on.
Trying to block it out.
Yeah, exactly. Block that memory out. I was always surprised that Aggro ever got a run. I'm surprised that guy isn't done for something. Like Aggro should be locked away.
There's interesting stories behind the puppeteer with that one. Anyway, shall we move on?
Well, yeah, that's it. Well, I thought the allegations would have come out by now. But what a character to have on Australian TV. What a scary looking character.
Did he do something bad, did he? Or
No. He just was always kind of very adult.
Oh, he was.
For an Australian
totally.
kids TV show.
Yeah.
But we had all that sort of stuff. We had Richie Didge and all that sort of stuff growing up. Okay. But you know what? The show that I really loved, and I think a lot of immigrant families really loved, was Hey Hey It's Saturday.
Yeah.
That was just like the variety show.
Yeah,
you know, it's just so much entertainment. We grew up with It's a Knockout, so we immigrated when that.
God, I remember that. Yeah.
With Ricky
10.
May.
Yeah.
So my family loved that. It's a Knockout, and then so Hey Hey It's Saturday. So that was our insight into Australian TV, because you could be an immigrant, not speak English, and still kind of enjoy the show.
Okay.
So, it's weird, right?
Yeah, so there you go. Well, there was a bird, and you got Dickie Knee and Pluck a Duck. That's all you need.
I was going to ask you this question, but it could be a bit provocative. Yeah. Do you think that terrorism has taken a backseat to COVID? The new bogeyman is now the microscopic virus.
Well, I don't know. I think it's...
No, it'll all default back to China once
it's terrorism in itself, isn't it? Everyone's scared.
Yeah,
that's a terrorism.
Yeah, that's right.
And everyone's scared of what's happening. So there is a degree of that. We don't know where it started or what it's from, but it's kind of like a natural terrorism, isn't it? The bacteria's now, got a war on us.
That's right.
But I think a lot of things have taken a back. So we don't even know what's going on. I think the problem is that things are going to happen that we don't know about in other areas, they're just going to build and all sorts of things, because it's not news anymore. We don't get news. What happened to climate change? Where did that go?
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? That was, everyone was talking about that when before Corona.
We had a story here one day, I think it was the ANZ, one of the big four banks suspended trading, and it was just there for one day, and the story went off in the ether because of the virus. And you'd think any other time a major bank putting a halt on trading, that's headlines on every form of media, but it was just briefly mentioned, and that was it. And you think,
well, that's the thing. You don't know what else is briefly mentioned. I mean,
exactly.
Here in London, they're talking about a guy who took a trip during the lockdown. Cuppings and all. It's just stuff to. It's all sleight of hand, isn't it? I mean, it's all distraction. It's all about distraction and then doing other stuff. So that's my biggest concern, because I don't know any other issue. I don't know anything else that's going on. I guess, you've got those things in America with Floyd and, what's happened there and the riots.
We had one here in Australia, but nobody gave a toss about it. We had an Aboriginal woman die in Western Australia in police custody this week.
I mean, that's the thing. But Australians are a bit more complacent, aren't they? They're just kind of like, oh, yeah, we got Corona. We're not going out on the streets.
Yeah.
we'll just stay indoors. But yeah, it's just I think there's look, you've got Trump over there doing all sorts of things and saying all sorts of things, but it's I'm finding with this Trump administration, a lot of the issues are coming out though. And what's wrong with America is coming out during this administration on a sub thing. Because I think a lot of it's swept under the carpet previously, but it's really showing
I look at him as
the true nature of what goes on over there.
Trump, I look at it as just the whole thing of him happening as a symptom of a broken country. It's just really...
Well, I mean, there is that trend. I actually think Tony Abbott started that trend. So full credit to him. He was a guy that really started this whole, not liking the other and, stop the boats and, all this sort of stuff. And then after he became prime minister, he went overseas and was giving speeches to other countries on how to be bigots, basically. But yeah, it's you would hope that we're moving forward, but a lot of this time period is showing a lot of what people really think and how people really feel. If we're going to grow, we need to grow in a way where people understand what's happening and grow forward. I would not know much about Indigenous culture or how a lot of my Aboriginal friends, or if I didn't have Aboriginal friends or I didn't go to Redfern Public, I wouldn't know. There's people that have no idea about Indigenous culture in Australia. They have no idea that there'd be other languages, that there's another people here in Australia. And I think that really needs to be drilled, because I don't think the normal Australian knows it. I think they have a certain view of what it is, and it's whatever's fed or whatever they see or whatever they've dealt with. But I really think there needs to be an education on that front, which we got at Redfern Public. We cooked a kangaroo on the oval. Seriously, we had damper and kangaroo on the oval.
Oh, nice.
And literally, dug a hole, literally. That's the type of school you want to go to.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean? And give you that education. Yeah. And that was a diverse Australia for me, because you had all the immigrant kids, mostly in housing commission houses, with the Aboriginal kids, and we all got along at school. We all played rugby league and it just was a real diverse place to grow up and to get a slice of that culture. But I don't think a lot of people are getting that in Australia, and a lot of people don't know what's happening there.
No way.
Well, that's what I mean. We had a person killed in police custody and no one knows about it. It was a little story in alternative media, and yet a black person gets killed in custody in America, and the whole shit's kicking off here in Australia. Like all our media saturation covering that, and it's like, oh, dickheads, it's in our own backyard.
It's happening. It's happening here. Yeah. Oh, it's happening in Oz. I mean, I remember as a kid, there were a lot of kids dying in juvenile detention. Yep. A lot of Aboriginal kids.
Yeah.
Or suicides, and it was just always a bit, how did this happen? But that was when I was growing up in the 90s, and so these issues have to be addressed, but it's just kind of, we're so complacent. It's like, yeah, whatever, yeah, we're no worries, mate, and it's just, the Australians are almost like the Arabs. The Arabs have a word, inshallah, which, is just basically God willing. Yeah. But it just basically means nothing. If it's a good answer, it's as good as a no, it's a maybe, It sounds positive, but it's hey, are we going to the park next week? Inshallah, God willing, and then that's it. Yeah. It's like whenever there's ever a disaster, a transport disaster in Egypt or something, always the transport minister, so can we find out what the details are? Yeah, God willing. Inshallah. Yeah, can we find the details of that? Yeah, inshallah. And that's it. You just move on. So it's a good way of sweeping something under the carpet. But
that's like the Arabic version.
Yeah, we have a bit of that. No worries. Yeah. No, all right, we'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
But I really do think that we need a real big. We need genuine change, because there is change that happens in media and in the way people think, but the way these presidents and prime ministers come about are from the people that don't move with the times and they hang on to their ideologies. And that's the problem. You get a prime minister or a president that speaks to the people that feel they don't have a voice because it's so bigoted. And so when somebody comes along like that, it's like, hey, he speaks his mind. They don't even care what he does. You have these like Christians, for instance. I mean, I'm a Coptic background. But Christians that will forego what, the character of a person. Trump is doing all sorts of things and grabbing people all sorts of places. And then that seems to be okay. because, you know, there's a view of something, or, you know, it's just, you know, it's all politics, it's all theatre, and it's all playing and manipulating people's emotions for personal gain. So, and I think that's in a lot of areas, not just politics, but we're getting political. Yeah.
That's okay. That's what that's what the Voodoo Room is all about. Diversity.
The Voodoo Room. Yeah. Where's that name come from, Pete? What's the Voodoo Room about? Is that a nickname or something?
No, I just thought of it because I had no other name for the podcast.
That was it. That's what came up.
So I thought of Dr. John, and I just thought, oh yeah, he's a bit of a voodoo guy, and I thought, well, we'll call it the Voodoo Room. It all stems from music with me.
Yeah, I mean, you're the music man.
I'm the music man.
You got. No, I must say, you did give me great sound at Bird's Basement. It was fun, that was a good little run.
Yeah, thank you.
That was a good run. I'm liking the attire as well. What's happening there, Pete? You know, are you on Underbelly?
Yeah, I know.
Just what's going on?
Yeah, show me the cash.
Yeah.
No cash out.
So he's expanded. He's going to do a run now. The mobile's going hot. What do you got, mate?
No, you're right. I was a bit conscious of that, but they had them on special, and I bought runners. And they gave me 2 tops and a tracksuit for $250. So I thought
you should buy an Ushanka. I have one. I love them.
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Up your I
like a good trackie deck though.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah, that's right. And they're good for yoga, you know, when I'm stretching and all that sort of stuff. But
you're doing yoga.
I am.
Look at this. I've never tried yoga. I've had no interest to do yoga for some reason.
That's fair enough.
Well, just as you can see. I mean, I was into boxing. I was really fat at one point, and I'm getting back to my old days. But I lost 58 kilos once upon a time, about 5 years ago. I did boxing.
Yeah.
In Redfern, actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it was in Redfern.
It was a great thing, you know, just boxing and just going to boxing classes and punching a bag really sheds the weight. But man, being in lockdown is just, you know, all you do is eat. You know, it's about talk about that. Sorry.
What sort of baking are you doing?
Well, I've been trying. Well, I got on the banana bread phase. I thought, you know, everyone's doing banana bread, so I give it a go. So I basically learnt what banana bread, how to make that, and then I just added all sorts of things. So I just cherries and, you know, just whatever I could find. I go, yeah, that looks good. So just whatever, coconut, walnuts, you know, just whatever I could put in. And, you know, every few days I was coming up with something else. And it was good to see the results. But, you know, and I think, I'm going to give this away to a friend. I never did. Just sat there and ate it. So, you know, you can't be having three trays of banana bread a week.
Yeah.
Just not on, is it? So, but I'm a good cook anyway, you know, doing curries and pastas and all sorts of things. So I never measure anything, just throw it in.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. Garlic, chili and onion as a base. You can't go wrong.
That's it.
You know, and if you put butter to that, you're in trouble. It's killing it. So, so I've just cooked but focused on the music as well. So I've been doing a lot of music, and I've got an album coming out in 2 weeks on June 12th, live at the Sydney Opera House.
Okay.
A recording I did with the Sydney Symphony. And, so that's really exciting to be a part of. And it's just, an album of my music live in concert at the Sydney Opera House.
Is that being distributed by the ABC?
Yeah, it's on ABC Classics.
Yeah.
So, there's already 2 singles out on Spotify and the streaming channels. And then, we'll see how we go. I'm still adapting to the streaming, Pete. It's a weird one. You know, back in the day, you used to be able to sell albums. Now you're looking forward to give it for free on a streaming platform.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean. It's a weird.
Yeah, because Spotify is a weird one, because I'm not sure if you were aware that they recently signed Joe Rogan, who's a podcaster.
I saw that. Yeah,
for $100 million, and I just thought, well, Spotify has made most of all their money basically on the back of musicians, and now they're giving it to a comedian. You know.
Well, I mean, that's based on what he'll generate for them.
For them.
You know what I mean?
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, people like his podcast, and if you can only get them on Spotify, then people are going to pay that $10 a month or whatever it is, $15 a month. So we'll see what happens. I just find the media. I mean, I'm starting to adapt to it now and just embrace it. I never really did, because I was just so angry what it did to musicians. But musicians did it to themselves. Yeah. You know, Napster tried it, and then, you know, they were taken to court years ago.
That's right.
And then at some point, the musicians just gave up. And, you know, I blame the mediocre musicians, to be honest, because it's the mediocre musicians that get on the bandwagon. Like, oh yeah, we'll get more publicity. But if the musicians just stuck together and went, no, this is a silly idea to give our music away for free.
Yeah.
I thought the Apple Music was a good model where you could just buy the album digitally. That was a good model. You don't even have that model anymore. You can't sell your album on Apple Music.
Oh,
that disappeared.
No, you can. On iTunes, you can still sell
you can, but it's very minimal now. People just have a subscription.
Yeah.
Now to get on Apple Music, if you're number one on the charts, it's like you've sold 10 albums.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I remember seeing all these friends going, oh, yeah, anytime I ever saw a post where they would say, oh, we're number one on the indie chart, or we're number one on the world music chart. And then you go, you speak to them, it's like, yeah, we sold 14 copies or something,
Yeah.
So going platinum is like 12.
Yeah.
Things have changed. I mean, it works for pop musicians if you're getting millions of plays or billions of plays like Beyonce. If you're a classical, jazz, or world musician, it's not doing anything, man. You're just going to get little trickles of, money here and there, which don't amount to anything. When you have thousands of bucks in producing these albums.
Yeah. I guess you're lucky in that with the current one that you're releasing, the ABC did most of the production work for that for you, did they? Or
yeah, the ABC, well, they mixed it and they edited it. I was there for a few of the sessions, but they recorded the live concert, so that's where it came from. That, and I could never dealt with having a symphony orchestra and dealing with all the rigmarole around that. So that's pretty exciting, and hopefully the ABC will push it. They've started just now with releasing a couple of singles. But I think what's getting me is that it's more track based now. Rather than an album. Back in the day, you used to, write an album and the tracks were carefully placed and you're worried about order. But now you just want to get on a playlist.
Yeah.
It's like radio.
Yeah.
Just basically Spotify and those streaming services are like radio, basically. And people are listening to radio shows by having their playlists rather than listening to a whole album.
But you can't pay the DJ on the internet.
Yeah, man. It's they now have these donate buttons if you want to donate to the artist directly, but I don't see that generating much. I think people have a culture which is free digitally. Anything digital is very much free. Very rarely do people pay for movies or anything, or very rarely an album. And everything is available for free, mostly. Some artists have been talking about, we should band together and not give things away for free, but I don't think that's going to happen. It's just a culture that people are used to, and they'll find that odd.
Well, there's a band in Europe I really like their music. They're independent, couldn't actually buy anything anywhere, but would watch it on YouTube. So anyway, I contacted them and sent them a gift. And I said, look, I love your music. And I said, this is effectively ripping it. I can't actually get it. I said, can you send you a gift? Yeah, please. We'd be happy with that. So so it's been a mutual sort of thing. And
I mean, it's nice.
That's
occasionally
nice.
You get the emails and stuff. And I think words are important. I think, getting, enthusiasm from a fellow human being or a stranger is really encouragement enough for musicians. But musicians are persistent, and throughout time, they've endured the hardships. As I think the Hungarians say, a violinist may not be able to feed a household, but dull is a household without a violinist. It's this thing of, it's not always been a money lucrative thing. And but at the moment, a lot of the integrity of what used to happen is just gone from the music business. So, artists like myself, who try and be on social media a lot of the time, it just gets, it's just basically a digital world, isn't it? It's about speaking to strangers digitally, whereas I've always loved being around audiences and seeing humans' faces and reactions and things. So it's definitely a new way of adapting to something. But I don't think we're going to have to leave home. That's it. Deliveries come to you, and that's he's going to have to stay home. One thing that it has made me is be body positive, which is something I hate that term, body positive, but it's just basically, as long as you're comfortable with looking fat, which is I do at the moment. I'm like, yeah, I got a gut, whatever. It's quarantine, isolation. Yeah. There you go. Body positive, Body
positive.
You haven't heard about positive. See, body positive gets me because it's when you'll see something, Pete. One day you'll open up the internet and one of your friends will post a picture of their ass or their stomach, and they'll have a quote saying, I feel so comfortable being in my skin, and this is the first time I felt that. And then you'll get comments like, yeah, you go, yeah, you're awesome, and all that sort of stuff.
That hasn't hit here yet.
Yeah, you haven't hit that, Greg. No, Greg, it's all over the internet. It frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of people that are on the bigger side of things.
I put up my crooked finger and I'm uncomfortable with my crooked, broken finger.
Exactly. This is the thing. You're pinky, and I'm happy. Pinky positive. I've got to be pinky positive, Greg. No, but look, I understand about, people being big and stuff like that and being comfortable in your skin. I mean, I dress like this. I always wear a bit of color and all that sort of stuff. But I just, and I'm very comfortable with it. But yeah, I just find it weird people showing naked skin of themselves and, reassuring themselves that it's okay to have that. Which is all right. Fine. Do you like my shirt, by the way, Pete? Can you see it?
I love it. I like your outfit, mate. You got the colours.
Do you know what it says? Have you seen it? It says Woodstock.
Woodstock.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there you go. Look, it's me playing at Woodstock.
And how much are one of those T-shirts? Can your fans buy that?
Oh, yeah, well, that's why I should start the merchandise. Well, I had these runners. I just made them myself for myself. Just at the gym. People go, what? It wasn't quite Woodstock. People go, what's that? But I had shirts like, the Oud, the Bad and the Ugly and the Grand Budapest Hotel and all sorts of other puns. A few Oud men, all those puns. Yeah. They're good, those puns.
They are.
Yeah. I just always have a bit of fun with it.
And how's the doctor? Has he been in contact with you?
Oh, yeah. Tom's great. Yeah. Tom's really great. Have you been in contact with Tom?
No, I haven't, because he lives in Sydney, right?
Yeah, he's on the Central Coast.
Yeah.
But lovely guy, very educated, top guy.
He is.
Tom, and a big fan, so he comes to all the concerts. And I love having him in.
Well, he's your number one. He's your number one fan, right?
He's the number one, man. Well, I mean, he comes to nearly every concert. Well, so when I talk about seeing your face, be disappointed with jokes that I've done before. I always use Tom as a reference as well, but he's usually sprightly. So Pete would be like, I don't know if Pete was daydreaming or if he actually did not like the jokes.
No.
I always thought I always thought a bit guilty if I went over time. I was like, Pete has somewhere to be, and I've kept him back. But that was it was fun having him, and it was good having that. We went out for lunch with Pete and
Oz,
Pete and Oz. Yeah, how's Oz doing?
Yeah, he's surviving the best.
I mean, look, I think it'll start up in Australia. I don't think it's as long as you think.
I don't know,
but I think you could get. You're going to have to go on the wedding runs, Pete. You're going to have to do sound for weddings and stuff. So that's all right.
Well, I have done that before.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to have to just ride this little period out if we have to.
I mean, I've done it all, mate. I've done children's shows. I've done weddings. I've done, concerts. I've done international jazz festivals. I've done, a bit like yourself. I've been all over the place, and I'm broke. Yeah. I'm broke and old, and
we're honest.
You'll be right. We'll get through it. I'm going to become a panel beater. I'm going to try and roll in a TAFE course, and see what happens.
Yeah, that's it.
Look, we'll survive. We will survive. We'll get there.
Yeah.
It's just the spirit is taking a little bit of a battering.
Yeah,
I think, and I think we'll get through it. It'll be an interesting time that follows. But we kind of, we didn't go through any wars. I never went through any wars.
No.
And I can't imagine this is any worse than any war. I mean, come on, like wars are, I hope it shines light on what people go through. I mean, people are upset because they have to stay indoors. Whereas, you've got people in Syria losing their homes and trying to get to better parts of the world, and we're in uproar. So it's it does put perspective on a lot of things and what is important and what thinking about other humans as well that are less fortunate. But the homeless situation seems to have been solved overnight, which tells me it probably might have been
avoidable,
possibly been able to be solved all along.
Yep.
That's it.
You know, so it shines light on certain things, and I just think I hope anyway it's forced governments to put money into places where it's needed, rather than because they have to now, rather than giving their friends a break.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were just talking before that the dole has gone up by 100%. Is that right, Craig?
Yeah,
100%.
Wow.
So and they reckon that's going to stay. Is that right? Or
no,
it's not going to stay.
No, I think Australia won't.
No,
I think Australia already in place. They're going to start getting people back to work as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, they're trying to, but as they are trying to, within the first week, we've had 3 different outbreaks of corona. So,
has it already?
Yeah,
I haven't read up on it.
It's primary schools, secondary schools, nursing homes.
Yeah, it's just a hard one to balance because the economy needs to start up again, and people are keen to do that. It's going to be interesting to see rugby league come back. Rugby league's going to be running rife with corona.
Yeah.
Mate, I mean, a scrum, that's going to... They need to change the scrum format. That corona's going to... They should just call it a corona.
Scrums are pointless anyway. There's no point in having them anymore.
There's no point in rugby league anyway.
When there used to be a purpose in having a scrum. It was a contest of brute strength, and now you just feed the ball into scorners. Why even bother? Just let him tap and play.
Well, I do like the scrum in rugby union. I think there's more of a
it still works
contest.
in union, I agree, but rugby league, it's pointless now.
Oh, rugby league, you just put it under the leg. But, occasionally you get one little, the hooker kicking it somewhere and, occasionally you get a run of play. Well, I loved rugby league. I since moving to London, I never got a chance to really get back into it. But I used to love rugby. I used to collect rugby league cards as well.
I remember them, collection. Gary Jack and etc. back at the end.
Oh, mate, it's all of those. I used to play a game with my friends where we'd try and think of these names, and we would laugh so hard. Like when we'd say Tony Iro, for instance. Just names that just aren't thought of at the moment. And Carl Vandervoort.
Oh, wow.
He was you know what I mean? Penrith. So you laugh because no one ever thinks of these players. They're just forgotten. Darren Britt and Mitch Newton. And, I was a Canterbury Bulldogs supporter, being Arab, it's being forced upon you.
Yeah.
You have to support the Bulldogs if you're from the Middle East. There's no choice.
You're Aboriginal, you have to support the Rabbitohs.
Well, the thing is, we used to go to the Rabbitohs ground. See, that was another slice, which we... do you remember Andrew Willett?
Yes.
See, there you go. These are names. Charlie Saab. These are names from back in the day. But we used to hang out in Redfern Oval because that's where they used to train.
Right.
And Reggie Rabbit was there. I don't know if you ever knew Reggie Rabbit, but he was a man of...
old bloke from the old
He was
school?
Sorry?
Is that old bloke, grey-haired? He was from the old school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but he
was
vertically challenged.
Yeah.
So that was something new for us as kids. But that was amazing. I remember seeing that. We used to drink their Gatorade or their Powerade or whatever. They used to have them in big things, and they just didn't care. It was a real community. That's what I loved about the Rabbitohs. It was a real community. And funnily enough, when Russell Crowe, this is a true story, when Russell Crowe first bought the Rabbitohs, he had a dinner, and I played at that dinner.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
It was just him, the team, and a couple of the personnel, and it was me and Richard Tognetti on violin, and he wanted to give them a slice of culture.
All right.
So he wanted to just bring this new kind of thing in, and so he got us to play there. So that was I don't know how many of them turned onto the Oud, but yeah, I've had a couple of those moments. Another one was with the Wallabies. Because I'm really good friends with I know the Wallabies coach, the former Wallabies coach, Michael Checker. Mm-hmm. His brother, I used to teach the Oud to Paul, and they're Lebanese background, and we were invited to a big, their mother said if they'd beaten a team, that she would cook for them. And so she did. And I was invited to that dinner. Mm. So there you go. There's these really nice little things happening around town, which I really, love. So hopefully people get back into the spirit of being together again.
Well, you paint a very poignant picture of Sydney because I grew up with AFL or VFL back in the day. Yep. So very similar but different. We didn't have the community side of things as much as you probably would have experienced with the Rabbitohs. You know, in the when I was growing up in the 80s, that had all changed and it become money orientated, and the sport had definitely changed by the late 90s. You know, the thuggery.
Yeah, but they have that culture though. In Melbourne, they're hardcore fans of
AFL.
VFL or AFL or whatever. But that never really, I think, hit Sydney. Except with the Sydney Swans, I guess.
I think back in maybe the 20s or 30s, I'm not sure, but Melbourne was like Europe. It used to kick off between, say, Collingwood and Fitzroy, like big riots and stuff like that. I mean, I'm talking European football style.
Yeah.
And it used to kick right off.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, sport's very important in Australia. I mean, that's the one thing that will always be kind of protected, you know, against the arts. You know, I went to Randwick Boys Public School, for instance, and we were the bee's knees. My brother plays percussion, but he's also a medical scientist. And we were the bee's knees. We had a picture of us in the foyer, so you'd go and visit the school. But then, you know, after a while, we were put in the background because, you know, Dave Warner started to go to the school, the Australian cricketer. And so that was then the pinnacle of anything. So sport always overtakes any of the arts. But then when he had that ball tampering thing, I was back on top for a little while. People forgot about him for a couple of years and then back again.
That's right.
But I think sport's a good one. I mean, it unites and, you know, keeps us entertained. But, you know, at the moment, most sports are just going to be, just Corona, cesspools.
They started playing rugby yesterday, I think, was the first game. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, it might be something. I mean, Germany started their Bundesliga and stuff like that. We'll see what happens. I think everyone's going to start taking up ping pong. I mean, isn't it very interesting that the Chinese are good at ping pong, and then there might be a connection there. Maybe it's a conspiracy from the Ping Pong Association.
Oh God, no,
get more people playing.
They're going to overtake you there. Fucking watch out.
Yeah, that's it. Because it's a social distancing sport, isn't it? You're 2 meters away.
That's right.
And you're in a little. That's it. Look, I think it's a very. I almost think that people just need to start getting corona. Look, it's also it affects men differently. All my female friends that have had it have just had it for a few mild, for a few days, and that's it. So it just seems to affect the men a bit worse. So, but look, at the end of the day, it's just a bad fever and some chills for me, anyway. That's what it was. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I've had a friend who's 70 who's had it, who's recovered, and he has a heart condition, so he pushed through.
Yeah.
So it's just the problem is it's so unpredictable. You don't even know what it is. People don't know what it is. You know, it's just all sorts of symptoms.
Well, I'll tell you what I've been told by a doctor is that there's three strains of corona: A, B, and C.
Yep.
C is the most deadly strain of it. A is the moderate version of it. So in Australia, most of it's moderate. It's the A. But if you get the C, it's what happened in Italy and New York. I mean, New York, I think they're up to about 100,000 people dead. You know?
Yeah. New York's tough, man.
You know, because it mutated. See, the three strains mutated, and it became a superbug. So I think that's what generally, from what I understood. I mean, I could be wrong, but. That's from what I understood from this medical doctor. Well,
I'm actually interested to see what's happening in Michigan because I assume that the social distancing and all that sort of stuff because of the protests aren't happening. So it'd be interesting to see, or any of those places where they've had protests, if there's been a spike. It's just it's just a really unpredictable thing.
Maybe in a month's time you might get that statistic, but they're just burning the place down at the moment.
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, this seems to happen every few years, though. I remember riots always happening. There's always, I mean, this stuff's always been going on. But again, it's through that education, that growth together. But I think in America, there's always going to be that animosity between, not animosity, but it's just that kind of divide between white and black. And, there's never that real... thing of acceptance unless you're exceptional, you know what I mean? That's when it breaks it. Like O.J. Simpson had crossed over. You know what I mean? He was very much in the white scene, you know, and they kind of, you know, dug him. But yeah, I don't know. But I think Australia should also be assessing that as well, in the way we treat Indigenous people. And no, but really, I genuinely think, and I say it always, is that there's just the education isn't there. No one knows about the people living in the country that they inhabit.
Yeah.
You just have to go to Darwin. You need to go to Northern Territory.
Yeah.
Give them, you know what I mean? There needs to be an insight. And I think artists like Gurumul gave a little bit of an insight into that, you know, Dr. G, I should say. But it's a real interesting, thing that we have in the country. And I just think we need to grow together, genuinely grow together, rather than just sweeping it under the carpet.
Yeah.
Because it just seems to be we're on a cycle. It just seems these things seem to happen every 5 to 10 years.
I just think I just think this one's a bit more. I think this is just a bit more intense than usual, you know, because of the corona and because of the economy.
I don't know, but there's always been those riots and stuff. You know, I remember even as a kid, like Rodney King.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it was
sort of pops up every 10 years. It kicks off, doesn't it?
So that's, I don't know, 20 years ago. Yeah, more than 20 years. That's almost 30 years ago.
It's just like about every 10 years it seems to kick off over somebody. Something happens and then it'll go off.
Yeah, we need genuine change. But in ideology, how does that happen? You know what I mean? We all have our prejudices, and that's the thing. And it depends on personal experience and things like that, and what people go through. But essentially, these people that do this sort of stuff, they're not, you know, they just have a bad sort of judgment. Like, I think that police officer's an idiot, like an absolute, but it's just, you know, it's a weird thing. It's just the way they are. Do you know, like here, if you look at the police officers here in London, there's people telling them to F off and stuff. It just wouldn't happen in America. You know, it doesn't happen in America. They just use this brute force where they're on edge and they're ready just to do it. They don't care. You know, whereas here they just seem to be a bit more human in a way. And then, you know, you just see people telling police officers all sorts of things.
Yeah, right.
I have a friend that's a police officer here. He just cops it, man. He's just like, you know, I can't really do anything, you know.
Yeah, right.
He's just there, and the way he tells them off is just almost like, come on, guys, please, you know, go away, or, you know, it's, you know, there's really no power here. It's just, to be honest, it's a better source of policing. But in America, you know, it can be anything.
Yeah.
Look at that guy. He's just, you know, there's no need for that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, every day you watch the news or you're on the net and you just see that constant photo of that guy, the police officer with his knee in his neck, and you just go, I mean, my reaction to that was, I mean, I just felt so sorry for the guy, you know, being tortured like that.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, any human does. Yeah. There was bystanders telling him to get off. You know, but look, okay, you got to also understand, imagine the things that are happening that aren't filmed.
Oh, man.
This is just, you know, this could have been an incident that wasn't filmed.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
There's plenty of stuff going on that we don't know because of the, you know, and as Greg said, there's plenty of stuff happening in Australia we don't know about.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so it's like, you know, these days it's only if you can get it on film and see what's happening. It's like the woman in the park who lost their job.
Yeah.
You know, ringing the police on the guy for the, you know, the bird watcher or whatever. Yeah. It's just, you know, again, it's anything you capture on film. It gives you a little bit of insight into what's happening, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, so anyway.
We'll leave it there, brother. It's been great.
All right, my man.
It's been great.
Thank you so much. It was all heavy, Pete, all heavy stuff, but there's a positive message in there, positive thread, and we'll get through it.
You reckon it was too heavy?
No. There'll be a lot of people crying, tissue boxes out.
Oh, well, that's what we want.
No, I'm kidding.
That's what we want.
I'm kidding. Well, it was an emotional roller coaster.
It was.
Well, I'm glad we got it happening because, you know, we missed the times a couple of days. I got you got your watch mixed up, and I got it an hour later, so I mixed that up.
I can end on a racist joke. It's actually quite funny. All right, there was an Arab, a Maltese and an Aboriginal, and they walked into a bar, and they looked at the Serbian barmaid, and she looks at them and she goes, "This is one of those racist jokes. The three of you can fuck off."
There we go. Hello. It's very much Australia, isn't it? Oh, well, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, pleasure, mate. It's been like a long time since we had the pleasure of each other's companies. But that lunch down at Half Moon Cafe down in Coburg just seems like it was.
But you know what the funny thing is? I don't feel like that was that long ago for me, but it was. Yeah. It's almost 3 months or something. That's how crazy it's been. Because I'm kind of still thinking about my last gigs.
Yeah.
And my last gigs were Bird's Basement, and then I did the Port Fairy Festival, and then one in Sydney, and that was it. That was a wrap.
It's the same. It's still like we had a show that got pulled halfway through at La Mama, and that's where everything stopped in my head. I don't like still think of the last gig. It's like,
It's weird, isn't it? You don't think it's that long ago, but it is. It's kind of getting on there. But I'm doing kind of live shows anyway. I'm going to do a CD launch on June 12th from my living room. So you just got to do with what you've got.
We'll tap in.
Yeah, imagine if you didn't have digital peeps. Imagine what would people be doing? They're just writing letters constantly.
Well, you'd be going to your local TV station and trying to get a spot there, and then they'll satellite it like they used to, direct.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's just we do have some luxuries, I guess.
Yeah, man.
We'll see how we go. If you're smart enough, you can do it.
That's it. You'll be fine.
Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, mate. I appreciate your time. Yep. It's been fantastic.
No problem. All right, we'll see you again soon.
Take care.
Guys.
Okay.
Voodoo strikes. It'll tear apart your head when voodoo strikes. You wish that you was dead when voodoo strikes. It'll tear apart your head